We have 13 children in unlicensed placements, like you mentioned. So we have them in hotels, we've rented houses. It's a really dire need right now for our foster families to come forward and care for those vulnerable children in our community.
Are there enough families stepping forward in Windsor, or does it sometimes mean sending children out of our area?
Yeah, so typically what we would have done if we didn't have the homes here in Windsor, we would have gone throughout the province. But this is a province-wide issue that, we're facing. So we don't have the homes outside of Windsor, Essex to source. So that is why we have the children in the unlicensed placements here, because there's really nowhere else for them to go.
Now, you and I spoke yesterday. I put together a list from our chat about some of the most common questions you get asked from people who are interested in being foster parents. So I'm going to ask them to you. We'll have a bit of like maybe an open forum type setting here. The first question you get asked all the time is, do I need to have an extra bedroom?
Yeah, that's a great question. The space is a really important one. So foster children cannot share a room with an adult. That being said, if they are under 6 months, they can share a room with an adult. So they do need to have their own bedroom. But saying that, they can share a room with other children, whether it's biological children, adopted children, or other foster children. So they do need to have the space, but they can share.
What if I'm a single person? Can I foster a child?
Absolutely. Great question we get all the time. Yes, you can foster if you're an individual, if you're a couple.
Can I bring the child on vacation? You get asked that all the time.
Yeah, this is one that comes up at every information session. People love to take children to Disney, I guess. We've had a lot of children over the years go to Disney, but the answer to that is yes, absolutely. You can bring a child on vacation. Also really important is we do have 24 days of paid relief for each foster family. So if they do need to recharge their batteries, go on a vacation without the children, there are opportunities for them to have that, opportunity to recharge, go on vacation without the children. But in the same breath, they can absolutely bring the children and go on vacations, go to trailers, go camping, go to Disney.
Can same-sex couples foster children?
Absolutely. Anyone, any gender identity, sexual orientation, and saying that also any culture, religion, race, we want people from all walks of life. The bigger diverse pool we have, the better able we are to make matches with our children. So we want people from all walks of life to come forward and consider fostering our children.
Can people who smoke or drink foster children?
Yeah, this is a great question and often one that we get. And it's a bit more complicated because if you're fostering children under the age of 5, we ask that there's no adult smokers in the home. And we just think about the needs of young children, that secondhand, third-hand smoke, holding a baby up against you. So we're going to say no smoking if they're under the age of 5. If they're over the age of 5, you can be a smoker, but we ask you to have a designated smoking area. A lot of people like a little drink here in the evening. Absolutely, you can do that. But, it has to be healthy and it can't be at risk to the children.
I'm wondering also how much interaction there is between foster families and the biological birth families.
Yeah, that's also a great question that we get, and a lot of people, are concerned about that. There are boundaries put in place, usually by the worker, and it changes depending on the family that you're. Every situation is different. So some people may have a lot of interaction with birth families. Some people may have minimal interaction with birth families. But we like to explain it as a co-parenting situation. If you're going to be fostering, you're going to be co-parenting with the Windsor Essex Children's Aid Society because we're essentially the guardian of the children. But you're also going to be co-parenting with birth families because they're the ones making the decisions and they are the, birth parents to these children. So there are boundaries around that. They're never going to turn up at your house unless it's prearranged and you're comfortable with it. There's usually scheduled access arrangements that you don't have to attend, so again, an opportunity to have respite. But there are a lot of very clear boundaries around that. So there is contact, but it's really dependent on your comfort level and skill set.
How much does a family get paid to foster?
Great question. So the reimbursement is a daily per diem rate to kind of offset the, rent, utilities. So that's around about $34 a day per child. But in addition to that, there's a lot of monies provided. So we provide recreational monies for the children. We provide religious holiday funds. We have school supply funds, clothing allowances. We also provide full Green Shield coverage for medical, dental, optometry, that type of care. So really, it should never be out of pocket when caring for a child. I know in today's climate, financial climate, a lot of people worry about that, but really the needs of the children should be covered by the Children's Aid Society.
How extensive is the evaluation parents go under in order to see whether or not they're eligible?
Yeah, so it is a bit of an extensive process, but people need to understand that we are caring for the most vulnerable children in our community. So you have, we ask people that people come to an initial information session, complete an application package, and then they'll need to do some different clearances, such as the vulnerable sector, a medical form for every adult in the home, and then we're going to need references, but it's also 27 hours of training. So that's our parent resources for information development and education. And while they're doing the training, which is usually about 3 hours once a week for 9 weeks, we're completing a structured analysis family evaluation, which is what we call our home study. So a worker comes out and they conduct a series of interviews with the family, with the individual, with the couple, with the family unit, to determine if they're appropriate. But we like to see this as a dual assessment process. So as much as we're going through the process and assessing our families, we want to make sure that our families are looking at the situation to determine if this is right for them. So it's a great opportunity to, determine, is this right for our whole family? So it's a bit of a process, but at the end of the day, it's really worth it.
Now, once you find out you are eligible, is there much of a wait between eligibility and having a child that's a good match?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that really depends. If there's children coming into care, if you're a right fit for the child. What I will say is that there's no strike system. So if we present children to you and you don't feel you're able or have the skill set to care for the children, you can always say no until the right one comes along. So, it could be hours. I've placed children upon approval within hours of approval, and other families may wait, 6 months to a year till they feel that they're ready to have a child placed with them.
And how long would a child typically stay with a family?
Yeah, my favorite answer to that is how long's a piece of string?
Okay.
Because we don't always know the answer to that. There's so many factors. It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. And a lot of that really depends on the as when a child's in the care of the society, we're always looking for reunification, right? So we always want them to go back to their birth families, and we're going to do everything we can to support that family to get them home. But we're also going to be looking, is there kinship options? So is there family, friends, community that can also step in and care for the child? So those are different reasons that the children can go home. And sometimes, those don't pan out, and unfortunately, they do need to stay for a longer period of time.
Why do you think more parents aren't signing on? Are there barriers?
I think two of the biggest barriers that I think about right now is the current financial climate. I think people are struggling financially to manage their own unit, so they're concerned about bringing in, another child into the home. But I hope that people now realize that that should never be out of pocket, so that may be able to, make them think about opening their doors and their hearts to these children that need the care. The other barrier that I really think is that people don't think they have the skill set. And what's important to know is we offer a whole host of training on all different topics to make sure people feel, that they have the skills, that they have the training, that they have the knowledge and the ability to care for our children that have experienced trauma.
Is there a certain skill set that people are most reserved about, whether or not they have?
I'm not sure, but another fact that I really think people worry about is attachment, right? And that they're going to fall in love with these children.
That would be my problem.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest things we hear is I'm going to fall in love with the children. How can I give them back? And what you need to really think about is that short-term care for the child. They're going to come in. You are going to fall in love. You may grieve, or you may develop a lifelong bond with these children, right? And I know many foster families who years later, the children are coming for Christmas dinner, they're coming for Thanksgiving, they're inviting foster families to their weddings. So that short-term reunification can turn into a lifelong bond. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about fostering.
Well, I like the work you do. Thank you so much for coming in. We have to stop because of time, not because of content. Thank you.